Okay, we are going to finish our trip down the rabbit hole by drawing rabbits. We're going to do a non-regular tessellation of leaping rabbits today, and we're going to start off with a square canvas, which I have at 2048 by 2048. It is the standard PROcreate square canvas, 300 dpi, RGB settings. If we go to the drawing guide, I have it set for a grid. Down here, you can see that it is at 42 pixels. I'm basically taking the squares that I am going to be using and cutting them into halves going both directions. So 4 little squares inside of each big square. I've set my opacity for 75%. My color up here, you can see, is set for a lovely cyan. And we click done. Now the first thing I did was I created a box which was 22 by 22 little squares. And then on the layer beneath, I created 2 smaller grids. Each of these grids has a square comprised of 4 each. And then for layer 3, I just labeled it. Going from top to bottom, there are 11 rows. At the top, there are 11 rows. And at the bottom, there are 14 rows. These 3 rows are going to be used for the tail end of our rabbit foot whenever he's jumping up. Now, if you would like, you can pause this video and replicate this. I put my yellow and green grid behind the blue square because this blue square is going to be important later on. So definitely at least pause and do our 11 by 11, or in the case of grid size 42, our 22 by 22 square. Okay, if you did all that, welcome back. And we are going to set our opacity on these to somewhere around 30% or so. That way we can still see them, but they're not going to be in the way. Since I have a layer 1, 2, and 3, we're going to start with layer 4. And we're going to start by building the head of our jumping rabbit. We're going to cover line 0, B, and C. So that's 4 small squares or 2 large squares in length. And being precise at this stage is a good idea. So what I am doing is I am zooming in and putting our little blue dots right at the crosshairs of our grid. Our helper grid, that is. Now we're going to go down at a 45-degree angle to the edge of our blue box. That's the line between 1 and 2. And then I am going to go a half a box down, or 2 grid squares down. Just like that, nice angle. And that creates the nose of our rabbit. I'm going to duplicate layer 4. And then, whenever I do the selection arrow, right up here at the top, I can now go down here in the middle of the bottom and rotate 45 degrees 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have my snapping turned on for magnetics, but not snapping. And I'm just going to drag this down so that it's directly in the middle of my number 6 area. We'll zoom down a little bit and make sure that that is properly centered. And now we are going to match, we're going to draw a line to connect these two shapes together. And this should generate a perfectly geometrical shape, a perfectly symmetrical shape. Always helps if you use your words. We will merge layer 4s together. And then if I change the opacity to around 50% and duplicate it, select it and rotate 45 once again, 1, 2, 3, 4 times, then you notice that it is an exact symmetry. Everything is exactly the same, up, down, left, right. You can see the same thing if you do the flip horizontal and flip vertical. I just prefer to do the rotate. So we'll delete that extra layer 4. Let's leave the original layer 4 around 50% or so. We're now going to make the ears. So let's go up a layer. And we're going to draw a line that is 3 grid sizes across and 2 grid sizes down. Just like this. We're basically creating a diagonal line going across 3 grid sizes. Once again, center in the crosshairs. I got lucky so far. I don't have to redo any lines. And now we're going to go 5 grid sizes to the right. Basically, that's 2.5 of my green boxes. There we go. Edit that shape. And we'll tag that up. I'm going to take my layer 4. I'm going to dim it down a little bit more. You don't have to do yours. Here on my layer 5, I'm going to continue with my lines here. We're going to match what we did here and go and make a little slash through 6 of these grid boxes, just like this. And then we're going to slash through 6 grid boxes going down. For those of you that did the yellow and green grids, we are ending up at 4J, or J4 if you look at it that way. And we're now going to go 3 grid boxes, or 1.5 of our yellow boxes, over to the left. I know that I drew it from left to right, but the line itself points to the left. And I didn't get that done right, and I have to redraw it. Give me just a moment to catch up to the rest of you. There we go. And if you want, you can pause the video to make sure that you have this particular shape down the same way that I have it. And then what we're going to do is duplicate that layer and rotate it 45 degrees 4 times again. And then we're going to move it so that this point here is directly underneath this point here. So I'm going to zoom in there. I'm going to get this, and let's see, I need to tap it down at least 1. Yep, that looks like we're nice and even. And that ends up right on the side of our big blue box. And then we are going to connect these two shapes together so that it forms the shape of an ear going along the back of our rabbit. And merge those two layers together. Merge down. Once again, we check our work, we reduce the opacity, and we can duplicate the layer, rotate 4 times, and the shape is exactly the same. Let's delete the extra layer 5, and we have completed the top half of our rabbit. So we're going to go up another layer, and we are now going to create the front legs and the belly of our rabbit. This is actually very easy to do. We zoom all the way down here to the bottom corner. If you did not do the green grid part at the edge of your blue, you're going to go out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points. And you're going to create another line of this size, which is 2 larger boxes or 4 smaller boxes in length. Once again, I am going to match my crosshairs. And then I'm going to go up at a 45-degree angle to the left. And then I'm going to go across to the left the same number of grid squares, the same number of big squares. So that's 4 grid squares, 2 big squares. And this will form the back leg and the forearm of our rabbit. So we're going to duplicate layer 6. And I'm going to reduce the opacity of our duplicate to around 50% or so. I'm going to rotate it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. You see it is exactly the same. I'm going to move it up over here to the number 6 on this side of our grid. And because it is symmetrical, I can use this green line right here and make certain that it's directly on that line. And then this blue line here on the left side, I just have to center it onto that line. And there we go, it is perfectly positioned. From here, we simply connect these two shapes together. And then we will put the opacity all the way to 100% and merge these two layer 6s together. Then if we reduce their opacity to around 50%, duplicate and rotate 4 times, it's an exact match. So we know that we have done this part of the rabbit correctly. And we just simply have to make the back end of the rabbit and the back end of the rabbit leg. Very easy to do. We're going to mirror ourselves. We've got an even number of grid lines here between here and here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So if we mirror our lines together, then they should match up evenly, just like our layer 4, 5, and 6 have done. So for layer 7, I am once again going to put a cross going through 6 of our squares. And that's the third time I've had to redo. but that's okay. And we're going to mirror that right here. And then connect these two lines together to form our back shape. And once again, if we duplicate this layer and flip it 4 times, it's an exact match. I'm going to take layer 4, 5, 6, and 7 and make sure that they are all at a maximum opacity. I'm going to slide each layer to the right and then tap on group. I will duplicate the group. Turn the bottom duplicate off and flatten the top one. And that gives us our basic rabbit shape. You can go from here and add details, eye, mouth, ears, toes, in order to make a more detailed pattern. You have to remember, though, that if this is a brush, then it is going to need to be clear enough to brush on. I'm just going to show you how to do this particular brush, but I do have a couple of notes for future brushes for you. We're going to take this and duplicate it and rotate 45 degrees. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if we go up here, you'll notice that inside the blue box, that just completely disappears. So we don't really need to worry about that for here. But as we go down, we're getting this part of our pattern. If we had details, that we put inside of our rabbit shape, we would have to also replicate this here and here. But because we do not, for this one, have it, I'm only going to duplicate this one in order to ensure that I have this line and this line available. And we're now ready to create our brush. So I am going to group these 3 layers together, duplicate, and flatten the top one once again. And here's where the magic happens. We're going to go down here to layer 1 and duplicate it. I'm going to turn off layers 2 and 3. And I'm going to turn off the bottom layer 1. I'm going to go up here to the S-shape selection ribbon, and I'm going to make sure that I am selecting rectangle right here, the second from the end. I'm going to select the right side of the blue box, and I'm going to tap it over 6 times. So we click on this one, which is the transformation arrow, and then we're going to tap right over here 6 times, and that reduces our box size by that amount in order to account for the left and right being able to properly match instead of overlap. We're now going to do the same thing either at the top or the bottom. I'm going to choose the bottom, so I'm going to hit my selection rhythm, select the bottom. I like to zoom in a little bit so I can tell when I'm moving things. I'm going to hit my transformation arrow and then tap up 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now I am going to use my selection again, and this time I'm going to choose the automatic selection. So make sure to turn it off the rectangle, go to the automatic, and tap outside the blue box. And then we go up here to our layers, go to our layer 4, tap on it, and select clear. When we do the transformation select of this layer and tap on any of these blue dots, I like to use this one, I can see here that I am at 924 pixels by 924 pixels. I therefore have a perfect square. I'm now going to tap on this dot here, and that closes that. I will do fit to canvas, which is down here at the bottom, third from the end. Go up to my layers, tap on layer 4 again, select invert, tap on it and select copy. And then I'm going to turn that layer off and create a new layer. And I'm going to start a new brush. Let's go here to build on 3, where I've been creating all these nice brushes. Click on the plus sign. Go to grain, edit, import and paste. The zoom, we're moving down to follow size. The Apple Pencil, we're making the opacity to none. And properties, we're changing the maximum size to 500. And we'll click on done and test this out. I'm going to go up here to my wrench/spanner, turn the drawing guide off. It makes it easier to see this. This is at the standard 51%. And I like to use that just to take a look. You can see that there seems to be a slight catch right there at that corner. But I think it's acceptable. If you want, you can play around with the blue box instead of tapping this bottom line up 6, try tapping it up only 5. That's where this is coming from. If you have something that seems to glitch up and down, then your problem is going left to right, and you would adjust the box on this side. But because our glitch is here, sliding left to right on an angle, we know that it's the bottom of the box. But this is okay. And that is how you create a non-regular tessellation for a rabbit shape. Bonus for you, I'm going to run a speed paint showing all of these. But for now, we have the basic rabbit shape. Here I filled in some details and turned them into happy bunnies. And then I got fancy. I rounded off the corners to give it a more natural, organic flow. And then I did some editing on that. All right, so enjoy the time lapse here. I hope you enjoyed this video, and you have a wonderful day.